Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is my first live stream on my LinkedIn account, but you can also watch this on YouTube. My name is Vikas Pota, and every week I bring stories from around the world of prolific leaders who are doing incredible things in the world of education. And today I have with me Lasse from 100. 100 is an organization that identifies well-researched and impactful solutions to various problems, challenges, and needs that educators all over the world might have, and helps them in the implementation process to upscale these innovations. And the offer to innovators is that they provide visibility, encouragement, and credibility, because they back you. Especially in this innovation community, who deserve, the kudos and all the wind beneath their wings. I think 100 does a great job. Please welcome Lasse to this live stream. Lasse, welcome. Tell us a little bit about 100 and yourself.
Thank you, Vikas, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be part of the interview. 100 is a not-for-profit Finnish organization, and it was founded in 2015 in the form of an idea, and the actual realization of the organization happened in 2016. So we started actually from celebrating Finnish education innovations and practices. We selected 100 of those to celebrate the 100 years of independence of Finland, and that was kind of like the starting moment for the whole organization. I think many people have been asking, like, where does the name 100 come from? So that is the answer for that one. And then while we were doing that, many people were asking and saying that, like, hey, could you guys actually do this for like all kind of education innovations from all over the world? And I think we thought about that for maybe like for 5 seconds with Saku, the founder of 100, and we decided to go for it. And then the first global collection was announced in 2017.
And so if there were 3 things that you've learned about innovation in education, what would they be?
Well, the first one is that there is no lack of innovations in the world. So there are a lot of different kind of good things happening in the field of education, but the biggest problem is that people don't know about them. And then the second big insight is that it's not enough that people know about them. They should be also able to implement those solutions and practices as a part of their classroom work. And that is actually the most challenging part of it. So how you are able to localize something in your own environment, in your own school, and make it work. And we should be putting a lot of emphasis on the leadership, how we can make that happen.
So that is also one of the reasons why you're involved with World Education Week. Do you want to speak a little bit about that partnership?
Yes, so we are happy to collaborate together with the week, and of course, our mission is to help education innovation spread and help every child flourish in the world. And we see that the best way to do that is through education innovations, which are then implemented in different schools. And we see that the Education Week is a wonderful opportunity for our community members, innovators, teachers, educators around the world to join the week and also share the knowledge and learn something from others. So we are happy to collaborate on that front as well.
Wonderful. Lasse, we were speaking a little about the SDGs in particular, and SDG 4. Tell us in terms of your views on where we are with them.
Yeah, I think like we have been discussing a lot in the field of education that we should be focusing on those, and we should be implementing them as a part of the educational systems around the world. During the last, I would say maybe 5 years, we are seeing that the curriculums around the world are having more and more that kind of skills listed, that the students are learning those. But I think we have been been wasting maybe some time to actually studying implementing those skills earlier into the education systems, and I hope that we would be able to accelerate that change within the coming years. And like from our point of view, when we are working so closely with the grassroots level innovators and educators around the world, we should be giving the floor for them, because from the political system point of view, we should be allowing those changes happen, but to actually implement those changes and improvements at scale in education systems, we have to allow teachers to do their job in a best possible way.
So tell me, what do you think it's really interesting comment you make regarding why you don't think innovations actually spread. Do you think that leaders, and I don't just mean political leaders, fail to understand the importance of innovation? Do you think that's what it is?
I think like the leaders understand the importance of the innovation, because innovation as a concept, there is an innovation theory, especially in the field of business, which have been there for decades, and everybody knows that the business will thrive through innovations. But at the same time, we are kind of like the business field is not the only field where we would need to have innovations taking place. Innovation is also a very good way to solve social issues, educational issues, climate issues, and so forth. We have to be looking at those innovations. But maybe in the field of education, innovation as a word, it has a little bit of a stigma. And I think that comes from the fact that many times and around the world, teachers have been hearing that the politicians or on the system level, it's an easy way to say to them that like, hey, you have to be innovative to improve the education you are providing. And by the way, at the same time, we are cutting the budgets. So those two things have been tied up into each other, even though they shouldn't. So I believe like that is the reason why innovation has a little bit negative weight load on it in the field of education, and we should get rid of that one, because innovation, like how I understand it, is a way to do something in a little bit better form and get a little bit better impact from the practice, and then that's already an innovation for me. And we should be looking at that kind of big and small improvements which we can implement in education and make it better in a bigger scale.
And tell me, Lasse, in terms of your work at 100, how important are ecosystems for not just the creation process, but also in terms of the adoption process? And the second question that I have related to that is, where do you see these ecosystems are that actually we can shine a light saying there is this ecosystem that is doing incredible work, go and follow that? I don't mean individual innovations, but where there's an environment that actually promotes education innovation.
Mm-hmm. We have been working with two different reports during the last year, and I think I could actually, those are not yet published, so this is something brand new, and I could
we're getting an exclusive.
Yes, so I could a little bit elaborate on that. The working titles have been that systems that adapt and schools that learn. And like my thinking behind of that one is that the system, and meaning educational system or educational ecosystem, which is happening in a country, it should allow the education to improve and grow. And when the educational system is having that kind of factors and structures, that it's renewing itself, and it should be aiming for the continuous development as it is, so that it can keep up with the pace of change in society. It's easier for everyone who are part of the ecosystem to grow and make improvements in their local environment and at their school and so forth. And at the same time, the schools should be having quite, they should be like this kind of like growth mindset towards how willing they are to adapt new kind of things, how willing they are to pilot and test new kind of things as a part of their teaching practices, leadership practices, learning environments, and so forth. Because the change happens on so many levels, we should be able to allow that change to happen as well, and also, to make that commitment that even though some of the things we are trying out, those won't work, that's not a problem. At least we learn something and we are able to move forward and pick something else which is maybe better suitable for the needs and demands we are having in our local context. And I think like that is like the combination of things we should be having. So on the system level, we are able to adapt to the needs we are getting from the schools and from the teachers. We are taking those into account when we are forming the curriculums and we are creating those guidelines for our schools. But then on the school level, we are also kind of like pushing the envelope a little bit further and kind of like trying to identify where we can be going next and challenging the system level with those.
Lasse, you very conveniently haven't answered my question, which is the second one, which is which ecosystems do you see are excelling in innovation?
One of the things we were repeating, especially in a start of 100, was that we would need to be building bridges between the classrooms, between the schools, and between different people, because I think like one of the problems we have been facing in education is that it has been so local, and to make the education system to grow at scale, we should be able to make them to be more connected with each other. And I think like the best functioning system or group in the education field at the moment are the forerunner teachers who are going forward, who are doing those amazing things together, and they are sharing their practices, they are sharing their knowledge, which accelerates the speed of change and improvement on many fronts at the same time.
So, Lasse, if you were to look back through your work, can you tell us about one, two, three of these innovations that come to your mind? And I know it's not fair to pick on 1, 2, or 3, but that come to your mind about that have actually, as a result of participating through your process, have actually received the stamp, not just the stamp, but also the ability to scale their practice. Let's bring the story to life of innovation as to what's happened as a result of them being an 100 listed innovation.
Mm-hmm. So the main things we are able to deliver or give to the innovations are, of course, the recognition and then that they are connected to the great community we are having. We have currently people from over 90 countries as a part of our 100 community. And to be fair, I would be saying that none of the innovations we have picked and which have been growing faster after being selected to 100 would have not grown without the innovators work they have been putting in for years to make those innovations to form up and flourish. If I would need to pick a few of those, and I could be picking up a little bit different ones, something we have been working with or following for a longer period of time is, for example, a practice called Hello Ruby from Finland. So it was already picked as a part of our first collection of the Finnish innovations. And it's a practice which helps students and especially preschool students to understand about computational thinking and these kind of skills which are very much needed in the world. And now the materials have been translated to many languages. And we hope that we have been helping in that one, but I would say that the innovation itself is so great that it has been growing, because of that one as well. And then something else is, for example, Roots of Empathy, which is kind of like helping this kind of social and emotional intelligence to grow within the students when they are able to interact with young children and young kids, basically babies, as a part of their classroom practice. We just had a conversation with them as a part of our research practice, and for example, one of the feedback we got was that it's so helpful when somebody is kind of like saying that these things are important, even though maybe in the eyes of the traditional curriculum education system, these kind of practices have not been always featured that much. So kind of like the innovation we are having, they are working in many different fields, and I think like one of the quite common assumptions is that like all the innovations are digital devices or online tools, and that's something I would like to break, because it's, as you know, it's an innovation. It's in its purest form when you are creating something to help with the students' well-being, and it can be totally non-digital, or and it can be something totally different. And we should be giving more recognition to this kind of practices as well.
Tell me more about the well-being point that you make, because I know that you care deeply about that.
Could you repeat that?
You talked a little bit about well-being to me prior to this live stream. Perhaps explain a little bit about what your thinking is around well-being, especially given the pandemic and what's happened in school systems around the world.
So if you look at the world in a larger perspective, we have been seeing that well-being related issues have been getting more foothold in different fields. One example being that, for example, burnout or exhaustion has been listed as one of the diseases recognized by the World Health Organizations. And I think it's interesting to think about what is the actual reasons behind of that one. Is it so that when we are living in the middle of the information overflow and so connected all the time, that we are kind of like losing some of our intrapersonal skills, where we are able to, for example, to identify how we are actually feeling, or how we are able to keep a good balance in our life, when there is no anymore that kind of distinction between working or studying and then free time. And I think that those are the things which we should be taking into account more in the curriculums as they are. And for example, during the pandemic time, in Finland, we have been witnessing that, especially and it's the same thing in many other countries as well, that students coming from lower socioeconomic families or with the vulnerable backgrounds, they have a higher risk of feeling depressed, or they might be dropping out from the supporting systems in these times. And I'm personally quite worried about that, like how we are able to keep them within the system, how we are able to make them flourish, how we are able to make them understand what kind of positive possibilities there are for them in life, and how they are able to act on those. Because if a student or young people is losing that kind of positive approach towards the future, then many problems may arise from that one.
Absolutely correct. Lasse, in terms of, are there any other observations you have during this crisis? So I went to your website, which is 100.org, and you spoke about, and on there, the first thing you see is like a toolkit for those engaged in school systems as to what they could do. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done there?
Yeah, so when it was obvious that the pandemic situation will impact the lives of all the students around the world, we were very lucky to be able to collaborate together with OECD to produce this kind of toolkit of best practices and solutions used in different countries and different corners of the world. So we put together in a nick of time spotlight on COVID-19 educational practices and solutions. So there is a lot of different kind of things you can be looking at. There are something which can be implemented on a national level, but then there is also a lot of smaller practices and solutions which have been used around the world, for example, to maintain the student well-being or helping them to cope with the situation and so forth. And something that, because we discussed before the interview, was actually that, like, how we are able to also encourage the educational systems to act on these kind of situations quickly enough. And I hope that the toolkits we were able to provide would help in that one, so that the different systems could be and people could be looking for solutions which are working somewhere and then adapt them for their own needs.
Well, thank you so much for that, Lasse. Before we end, can you tell us what you have in the pipeline coming up between now and the end of the year? I think those that are viewing this would love to know.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, in November, as every year, we are going to publish our global collection for 2021. So once again, 100 innovations around the world, inspiring, exciting practices and solutions which can be implemented in different schools. And on top of that one, there are also some other announcements coming up. For example, those 2 reports I was mentioning, those will be revealed within the coming months before the summit. And then something I have been actually super excited about is also bilingual education. So there is a spotlight on bilingual education to being announced, or the results are being announced in September. So those are kind of like the things we are looking forward at the moment, and you can believe that our office is currently working all hands on deck to make the global collection to be ready for the November.
Well, Lasse, thank you so much for your time today. As I've said, I think the service that you provide to the world of education is unique, and it's something that I have certainly noticed during my journey in education. And I applaud you and Saku for the work that you've done to give platform and opportunity for those that are doing incredible innovation. And it's really interesting you say that it's not just about the use of technology, but actually innovating in terms of practice, in terms of leadership, and trying to build from there onwards. That is exactly what the ethos is and the thinking is behind the establishment of World Education Week, which takes place from the 5th to the 9th of October, which 100 is a partner for too. If you are a school somewhere in the world that has an area of expertise or experience, can I please recommend that you go to our website, which is worldeduweek.org, and apply to take part in a global showcase on the 5th to the 9th of October. We are selecting 100 schools from around the world who excel or have an expertise in a particular area, so that we can accelerate, other schools and systems can accelerate on the basis of your knowledge and experience. So I'll repeat again, it's worldeduweek.org. And of course, please have a look at 100.org as well, and the fantastic work that they do. Lasse, thank you so much for everything you do. I really appreciate you coming on this live stream, and I look forward to strengthening our partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vikas.